My name is Selena M. Hart, 30 years old. I walked into my parents' house on Christmas Eve holding a homemade cake like it was some kind of peace offering. The air smelled like reheated ham and artificial pine, and the same tangled string of colored lights drooped around the staircase, dustier and dimmer than I remembered. For a second, I let myself imagine a normal greeting. Someone smiling, someone saying they were glad I came. Instead, my dad looked up from the couch, eyes already narrowed, and said, "Don't cause drama. Just leave it and go." No hello, no Merry Christmas, just that. The words hit me with the familiarity that made my stomach twist. I paused in the doorway, the cold still clinging to my coat, the cake box in my hands starting to feel heavier by the second. "It's just a cake," I said quietly. My voice sounded small, even to me. "I thought I'd bring something." He didn't answer. He just turned back to the TV, remote in hand, pretending I'd already become background noise. Mom came in from the kitchen a moment later, wiping her hands on a dish towel. She glanced at the cake like it was an inconvenience. "What's that?" "Cranberry spice," I said. "Mascarpone frosting. I made it from scratch." She let out a short, dry laugh that never reached her eyes. "You and your theatrics, huh?" she muttered, more to herself than to me. Then she took the cake from my hands without even really looking at me, walked to the far corner of the living room where Max, their golden retriever, lay curled on his bed, flipped open the lid, and set the entire thing down on the floor. "At least he'll enjoy it," she said. Max sniffed the frosting once, then started licking it enthusiastically, his tail thumping against the wall. The cake I'd spent hours making, candied orange peel, 3 layers, careful piping, disappeared under a dog's tongue while my parents watched like it was the most natural thing in the world. I didn't argue. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't ask why they couldn't just put it on the table like every other normal family. I felt my throat tighten, felt heat behind my eyes, but I refused to let the tears win. "Okay," I said, I'll see you later." "Don't cause drama," Dad repeated without looking at me. "Just leave it and go." So I did. I walked out into the cold without zipping my coat. The air cut across my face like a slap, but at least it was honest. I sat in my car with my hands on the steering wheel, watching the faint glow of the Christmas lights through the front window. Max was a blurred shape in the corner, happily devouring the only thing I brought. I'd told myself this year might be different, that maybe, if I showed up with something thoughtful, if I tried one more time, they might meet me halfway. But there it was again, the same message they'd been sending my whole life. You're too much and never enough at the same time. I drove home in silence. My phone buzzed a few times in my bag. Notifications, a holiday sale, a random group chat, but nothing from them. That night I logged into my bank account. The joint one stared back at me from the screen. The account I'd opened 2 years ago, when Dad lost part of his pension and they'd started falling behind on the mortgage. I remembered the way Mom's voice had cracked on the phone back then, how she'd said, "We just need a little help, honey, just until we get on our feet." I was the one who suggested the joint account. Something simple, something structured, so I could transfer money easily when they needed it. They contributed for 4 months. Then they stopped. There was always a reason. A delayed payment, a medical bill, a car repair. I believed them. Every single time. The transaction history told a different story now. Property taxes, homeowner's insurance, mortgage payments, the water heater repair last winter. A dozen little crises, all solved by quiet deposits from me. I'd been plugging leaks in a ship they'd already decided to abandon. The balance was $23,170. Money I had earned. Money I had put there. Money they were using like a bottomless well while feeding my cake to the dog. I stared at the number for a long time, waiting for guilt to rise up and stop me. It didn't. What rose instead was something colder, sharper, a kind of clarity that made my hands feel steady. I clicked transfer. I moved every cent into a private account in my name only. Then I removed their access to the joint one, closed it, and sat there in the dark with my laptop screen reflecting off the window. Not a cent of it was stolen. Not a cent of it was theirs. By morning, I was the villain. First came the missed calls. 8 from Mom, 5 from Dad. Then the text started. "What did you do? Call us now. This is serious, Selena." I watched them pop up on my screen while I brushed my teeth, while I made coffee, while I pretended I could just go about my day. I didn't answer. Then Dad finally spelled it out. "I'm filing a police report," he wrote. "You've robbed your own parents." A few minutes later, Mom added her own contribution. "I'm embarrassed to call you my daughter," she texted. Then, like a blade sliding between my ribs, she wrote, "You always ruin everything. You were born dramatic." Born dramatic. Like it was a defect. Like I'd come into the world pre-programmed to be a problem. That was the moment I knew this wasn't new. This was just another chapter in a story they'd been telling themselves and everyone else about me for years. Around noon, my phone buzzed with a different name. Emily. "We need to talk, call me." Emily was the middle sister, forever neutral, the one who smoothed things over, translated our parents' cruelty into something softer, easier to swallow. She never took sides. That was her role. I didn't call. I texted instead. "Come over tonight if you want. We'll talk then." She showed up at my apartment just after dark, cheeks flushed from the cold, hair twisted into a quick knot like she'd thrown herself together in a hurry. But she wasn't alone. Jeremy came with her. He didn't even say hi when he walked in. Didn't take off his coat. His jaw was tight, his eyes already lit with anger. "You stole their money," he said by way of greeting. I let the accusation hang in the air for a beat. I could feel my heart pounding, but my voice came out steady. "Sit down," I said, "both of you." Emily looked between us, hesitant, then sank onto the couch. Jeremy stayed standing for a moment, arms crossed, before dropping into the armchair like he was bracing for impact. I didn't start with a speech. I started with paper. I went to the side table, pulled out the folder I'd put together that afternoon, and set it on the coffee table. Bank statements, receipts, screenshots, copies of every bill I'd paid in the last 2 years. The electric bill my mom had forgotten, the property tax notice that had surprised them, the invoice from Dad's dentist, all of it. "I opened that account," I said. "I funded it. They contributed for 4 months and then stopped. Every payment since then has been mine, every transfer, every bill, every emergency." Jeremy scoffed. "They needed help, Selena. That doesn't give you the right to drain it." "It does when it's my money," I replied. "And when they feed my Christmas present to a dog and tell me not to cause drama." I slid the first statement toward Emily. "Look at it," I said. She hesitated, then started flipping through the pages. Her brow furrowed, her lips pressed into a thin line. I watched her face change, line by line, as she saw the amounts, the dates, the notes, transfers labeled mortgage, insurance, utilities, email printouts where Mom thanked me for handling the electric again and promised they'd make it up to me soon. Jeremy took the folder next, scanning faster, more aggressively, like he was looking for something that would prove me wrong. He didn't find it. "Why didn't they tell us?" Emily asked quietly. "About any of this?" I laughed once, humorless. "Because it was easier to tell everyone I'm dramatic than to admit they've been living off their daughter." Jeremy ran a hand over his face. "I'm going to talk to them," he said suddenly, standing. "No," I said sharply. "They'll twist it. They always do. They'll cry. They'll say I'm unstable, that I'm attacking them. They'll make you feel guilty and grateful in the same breath. You know how this goes." He shook his head. "I need to hear their side." "There is no side where the numbers magically change," I said. "You see the statements. The account is mine. That money is mine. The only thing they contributed was the password." Emily stayed. Jeremy left. We sat on the couch that night with the lights off, watching the faint glow of the city through my window. The Christmas tree in the corner blinked on and off, a cheap pre-lit thing I'd bought on sale, but it felt more honest than anything in my parents' house. After a long stretch of silence, Emily spoke. Her voice was small, like she hated the words, even as she said them. "I always thought you were exaggerating," she whispered. She didn't say more. She didn't have to. It was all there in her eyes, the shock, the guilt, the quiet horror of realizing she'd been standing on the wrong side of the line for years. By the next afternoon, I got the notification. The old group chat, originally created to plan a beach trip years ago, lit up for the first time in months. Jeremy wrote, "We're all meeting tomorrow, 4:00 p.m., Emily's house." A second later, Mom added, "About time. We need to stop pretending like Selena's behavior is okay." I stared at the screen for a long moment, feeling the familiar pull to defend myself, to explain, to argue. I imagined myself typing, "What behavior? Wanting to be treated like a human being? Wanting not to be used?" But I already knew how that would go. Every word I wrote would be twisted into proof that I was unstable, offensive, too emotional. So I closed the app. I didn't say anything at all. Instead, I picked up the folder again and slid it into my bag. If they wanted a meeting, I'd be there. But this time, I wouldn't be walking in empty-handed. I arrived 10 minutes early to Emily's house the next day and parked across the street. For a long moment, I didn't move. I just sat there gripping the steering wheel, staring at the familiar front porch where we used to drink iced tea on warm evenings and watch neighborhood kids race past on scooters. Back then, it felt like a refuge. Now it felt like walking into a tribunal where the verdict had already been whispered behind closed doors. Across the street, a couple of kids zoomed by on their scooters, laughing, oblivious. Life went on around me like nothing inside that house could possibly matter. But I knew better. This wasn't just a meeting. This was decades of dynamics about to be laid out on the table, and I had the sinking feeling no one would be honest except me. I took a deep breath, grabbed my folder from the passenger seat, and walked toward the house. Emily answered the door almost immediately. She looked nervous, like she'd been pacing. Her sweater sleeves were pushed up to her elbows, her hair pulled into a messy low bun. "You good?" she whispered. I nodded, even though the answer was no. "Let's just do this." The kitchen table was set like some kind of peace offering. Teapot in the center, mismatched mugs, a plate of store-bought cookies. But the air felt tight, brittle. It wasn't a table for tea. It was a table for autopsies. Mom and Dad arrived together, as always. They walked in like guests of honor. Mom with a bright, brittle smile. Dad with that heavy silence he used when he wanted to make someone feel small. Jeremy came in last, jaw already clenched. They barely said hello. No hugs. No holiday cheer. It was all business. Mom started before she was even fully seated. "You overreacted, Selena," she said with a tight smile. "The cake thing was a misunderstanding. A joke. You're always too sensitive." Too sensitive. That phrase again. A favorite of hers. She didn't stop there. She shifted smoothly into character assassination, like she'd rehearsed it in the car. "You've always been dramatic, easily offended. Things that aren't a big deal to anyone else set you off." Dad jumped in. "What you did with that account was criminal," he said sharply. "You had no right. You put us in danger." Jeremy leaned forward, arms crossed. "Do you realize the mess you caused? The mortgage is due next week. They're panicking." I let them talk. I let them stack their accusations like dominoes. I waited until the momentum ran out, until all three of them were staring at me with some combination of disappointment, anger, and self-righteousness. Then I reached into my bag, pulled out the folder, and set it in the middle of the table. "No speeches," I said. "Just look." Emily took it first. I watched her face shift as she flipped through page after page. Dates, amounts, transfers. Emails where Mom thanked me for handling the electric again. Screenshots of text messages asking me to just front them a few hundred more. Payment confirmations for dental work, property taxes, insurance. Emily didn't say anything, but her breath stuttered on the page showing the water heater repair, the one Mom swore she'd pay me back for next payday. Jeremy took the folder next. He flipped through faster, but I saw it, the moment it hit him. He slowed. His eyes scanned more carefully. His jaw unclenched just slightly. Finally, Emily broke the silence. She looked at our mother and said, "Why didn't you put anything into this account?" Mom blinked like she hadn't expected to be questioned. I don't remember. I thought it was for emergencies, not a big deal." Emily didn't accept that. "These are emergencies. Mortgage help, taxes, utilities, Dad's dental work. Why didn't you contribute anything?" Mom bristled. "I don't like your tone." Jeremy chimed in, turning to Dad. "Why did you let her do all this alone?" Dad shrugged, completely unfazed. "She liked helping." Then he added, "If she was upset, she should have said no." That was the moment, right there, that something inside me finally snapped. Not loudly, not dramatically, just a clean, quiet break. They didn't feel guilty. They didn't even feel embarrassed. They felt entitled, like everything I had given them was expected, owed, like the problem wasn't their behavior. It was my displeasure at being treated like a walking ATM. "We aren't here to attack you," Mom said, voice suddenly soft, manipulative. "We just want to move forward. But you need to stop making everything so emotional." If she said the word emotional one more time, I was afraid I might laugh, or scream, or both. I leaned back in my chair. "Do you realize how humiliating it was?" I said quietly. "You took the cake I made and fed it to the dog. You told me not to cause drama when I hadn't even opened my mouth. You've been using me for years and calling it love." Mom rolled her eyes. "Stop being dramatic." There it was again. I looked at Emily then. really looked. She wasn't defending them. She wasn't smoothing things over. She looked shaken, like she was piecing together a puzzle that had been scrambled her whole life. She swallowed and said softly, maybe we should try family therapy. Dad scoffed. Mom pressed her lips together. Jeremy stared at the table. I didn't respond. I just stood, picked up my folder, and walked out. That night, as I sat on my couch, staring at the blank TV screen, Mom sent a final text. You're still our daughter, but you need help. We're not the enemy. I didn't reply. The next morning, my phone rang. It was the bank. A fraud report had been filed against me regarding the joint account. Were you aware of a transfer? The woman asked gently. Yes, I said. And you made it yourself? Yes. She paused. I could feel her confusion through the line. In that case, Ms. Hart, you have nothing to worry about. Your name is on everything. There are no signs of fraud. I thanked her and hung up. Then I sat on the floor for a long time, phone still in my hand. They had tried to report me. Not even 48 hours after pretending they wanted to talk. After sitting across from me at Emily's table like they cared. That night, Emily sent me a message. No words, just a screenshot. A text Mom had sent to her and Jeremy. I don't know what's wrong with Selena anymore. She's always been unstable. She was never the smart one. Emily didn't send anything else. She didn't need to. I stared at those words until they stopped stinging. Then I opened a blank document and started writing a list. Everything I'd done for them. Everything they'd done in return. 2 columns, 2 very different lengths. And for the first time in my life, I let myself see the truth without cushioning it, without excuses, without rose-colored glasses. None of this was new. I was just finally done pretending. Jeremy called the next afternoon. His name lighting up my screen made my stomach tighten. Not with fear, but with the anticipation of another fight I didn't ask for. Still, I answered. Can we meet? He asked. His voice sounded strained, not angry this time, tired, confused, like someone who finally realizes the ground under them isn't solid. We met at a small coffee shop near his apartment. The winter sun streamed through the windows in pale stripes, casting long shadows across the floor. Jeremy sat with his hands clasped, staring at his coffee like it might give him answers. He didn't waste time. I went over everything again, he said. The statements, the messages, the receipts. He paused, jaw working, emotions shifting behind his eyes. I might have been too quick to jump on Mom and Dad's side. They told me things that... He didn't finish. He didn't need to. Then he asked a question I wasn't ready for. Do you still want to help them? I blinked. Help them? They're in trouble, he said. The mortgage is behind. Dad might need surgery in the spring. If you walk away now, it's just going to get worse for them. There it was, that quiet burden shoved onto me again. The expectation that I'd be the savior simply because I always had been. I leaned back. Jeremy, did they tell you they filed a fraud report against me? He froze. A beat passed. Then another. No, he finally said. His voice was barely above a whisper. They didn't. That changed everything. I watched the realization settle across his face like a slow-moving storm. Jesus, he whispered. I didn't know. Yeah, I said. That's the point. He rubbed his temple, looking suddenly older. I need time to think. Take it, I said. I'm done chasing anyone. Later that night, Emily texted me. I'm coming over. I have something you need to see. She arrived with a folder in her arms, an overstuffed one, bulging at the sides. Her expression was brittle, as if she'd been crying or holding back tears for too long. What is this? I asked. She didn't answer. She opened the folder and spread its contents across my coffee table. Screenshots, printed texts, emails Mom had sent her over the years. Words like knives. She's always dramatic. She's so stupid sometimes it scares me. She can't handle her own life. She'll crash eventually. They always do. I pity whoever marries her. I scanned them silently. Page after page of my mother talking about me not like a daughter, but like an inconvenience. A burden. A flaw in her otherwise perfect narrative. That's all from this year, Emily said quietly. Mostly before the money stuff even started. I didn't cry. I didn't even flinch. I'd known, deep down, for a long time. This was just the first time I saw the cruelty written out plainly, without the softening filter of wishful thinking. Emily, I asked softly, why bring this now? She looked at me with a mix of guilt and heartbreak. Because I didn't understand, she whispered. Not really. I thought you were exaggerating. I thought Mom just didn't know how to talk sometimes. Her voice cracked. I didn't realize she actually meant it. That night, after she left, I sat at my laptop. I opened the old private family message board, the one used to coordinate birthdays and holidays, until it devolved into silence and unread notifications. Everyone still checked it. No one posted. It was the perfect place for truth. I didn't write a rant. I didn't insult anyone. I didn't beg for understanding. I simply uploaded screenshots, receipts, bank statements, and a clean timeline of financial support spanning 2 years. I ended it with one line. If you've heard rumors about me, please compare them with these facts before deciding what to believe. I logged off. No explanations, no back and forth, just facts. I didn't expect responses, but the next morning I woke up to 17 unread messages, cousins, aunts, a couple of relatives I barely remembered. We had no idea. Thank you for speaking up. Things make more sense now. Your parents always acted different. Then came the one message that mattered most. From Jeremy, 4 words. They lied to me. A few hours later, he showed up at my door with a single sheet of paper in his hand. I need you to see this, he said, stepping inside. He handed it to me. It was a printout of transactions from an account number I didn't recognize. What is this? I asked. My parents' second account, he said, the one they never told anyone about. The numbers blurred for a moment as I scanned the lines. Over $14,000 deposited in the last 10 months. Social Security, a small inheritance, money Jeremy had sent them for the mortgage. They hadn't been broke. They hadn't been drowning. They were stockpiling money, hoarding it, while asking me for help, crying about emergencies, and letting me drain myself to support them. Jeremy sank onto the couch. I thought the money I sent them was helping keep the house afloat, he said quietly. Turns out, it went straight here. He pointed at the statement. They lied to you. They lied to me. They lied to everyone. We sat in silence for a long time. Neither of us knew what to say. Eventually, he whispered, "We've been backing the wrong people for years." That hit harder than anything else, because it wasn't just him. It was all of us. Emily, me, even relatives who had quietly assumed Mom and Dad were the victims in every story. The next few days passed strangely. Heavy, but also clear in a way I'd never experienced. Emily dug through old messages, forwarding ones that now read like evidence in a trial. Jeremy sent me screenshots of conversations with our parents. First denial, then excuses, then sudden accusations that we were ungrateful. On New Year's Day, I made one final update to the message board. No emotion. Just facts, dates, timelines, receipts. When I finished, I logged out and turned off my phone for 24 hours. When I turned it back on, there were even more messages. Apologies, confessions, stories from cousins who had quietly experienced similar manipulation from my parents and never said anything. And then the one that shifted something deep inside me. A message from my mom's old friend Diane. "I'm not surprised. Your mom has called you her backup plan since you were in college." Backup plan. That phrase echoed in my head all night. Not daughter, not family, not loved. Backup plan. And suddenly everything made sense. All the guilt, all the manipulation, all the casual cruelty wrapped in concern. I wasn't their child. I was their safety net, their fallback, their emergency fund with a heartbeat. And I realized something profound. I didn't want to go back. Not to the fantasy version of them I'd been clinging to. Not to the cycle I'd spent my whole life trapped inside. I wanted out. Completely. Cleanly. Finally. The first sign that my parents were unraveling came in the form of a voicemail from an unknown number. I let it ring out, assuming it was a telemarketer, but when the transcription appeared on my screen, my stomach twisted tight. "This is the mortgage company. We need to discuss the delinquent status of the loan. Please contact us immediately." Delinquent, of course it was. Even after everything I'd revealed, after the secret account, after the receipts, they still hadn't paid it. Not with their money, not with mine. I dialed back, explaining calmly, professionally, that I was no longer responsible for payments. The representative confirmed I could be removed from outdated documents. I signed the separation paperwork the next day. It felt like snipping the last tangible thread tying me to them. By evening, my phone buzzed again. 2 messages from my mother. The first: "You've embarrassed us enough. You've hurt your own family over a few dollars." A few dollars. 23,000 was a few dollars. The second message arrived 2 hours later, her tone flipping with whiplash speed. "Please, we're going to lose the house. You don't want that on your conscience." I stared at the screen until it dimmed, and then I didn't respond. Not out of spite, but because I finally understood her words for what they were. Tools, not truths. Emily thought we should try one more time. One last meeting, she said. I think they're scared. They sounded softer. Softer. Not sorry. Never sorry. Jeremy didn't say much when I told him about the idea. He just shrugged with a tired expression. They miss what we gave them, he said quietly, not who we are. Still, I went. Not because I had hope left, but because I needed closure, not the fantasy of reconciliation, but the truth in its final form. The meeting was at Emily's house again. Neutral ground, same kitchen table, same soft lamp lighting, but the energy was different, heavier, stretched thin like overstressed glass. Mom and Dad arrived on time for the first time in years. That alone told me they were afraid. Mom looked thinner, dark circles under her eyes. Dad looked like sleep had become optional. We sat, no tea this time, no cookies, just silence. Mom cleared her throat. We're sorry, she said. But her eyes darted toward Dad, like checking if she got the line right. Things got out of hand. We didn't mean for it to go this far. Not one specific apology, not one acknowledgement of what they did, just a hazy fog of non-accountability. Dad leaned forward. We're family. We should move past this. Things got messy, but we didn't mean to hurt anyone. Then came the reveal, the reason for the meeting. They needed help, just a little, just enough to avoid foreclosure, just enough to catch up on utilities, just enough to get them through this difficult stretch. Mom clasped her hands like a woman praying. We're still your parents, she murmured. You should want to help. I looked at both of them, then said evenly, I know about the second account. The silence after that was absolute. No denials, no excuses. Just a flicker of irritation on Mom's face. Caught, and annoyed at being caught. What were you saving it for? I asked. Mom didn't hesitate. Retirement, she said. We deserve that. Deserve. The entitlement was breathtaking. Then she added, almost casually, You were always the emotional one, Selena, always trying to prove something. That was your weakness. And then, because cruelty was her native language, she leaned back and said it in the calmest tone I'd ever heard from her. You were always the stupid one. The words hung in the air like smoke, thick, poisonous. Emily didn't flinch, because she already had her phone recording in her lap. It wasn't for revenge, it was for sanity. Proof that what was happening was real. No one hugged at the end, no one said goodbye. It felt like watching something die. Not a person, something more insidious. A myth. A story I'd carried my whole life about what family was supposed to feel like. After they left, Emily uploaded the recording to the family message board. 5 minutes later, she deleted it. She didn't want a war. She just needed to hear the truth aloud one last time. The next morning, I blocked them. Phone, email, every contact route. Not because I was angry anymore. Anger was an old flame by then, burned out and cool, but because I had nothing left to give them, nothing left to fix. And because for the first time the silence wasn't punishment, it was protection. It was peace. But peace doesn't mean the pain stops immediately. When you walk away from people who raised you, even toxic people, it doesn't feel clean. It feels like pulling a rusted nail out of your skin. Necessary, but ugly. Healing, but raw. Weeks passed. The world grew quieter. I expected to miss them more. I didn't. I expected regret. There was none. Then the final confirmation arrived. Not from them, of course not from them, but from someone completely unexpected. Samantha, my cousin on my dad's side. A single message. Hey, this might be out of line, but I thought you should see this. Attached was a screenshot of a group chat I didn't know existed. The name at the top read, Real Family. And inside were my parents, several uncles, a few cousins, people who'd gone silent when everything blew up. My mother had written, Selena's playing the victim again. She's pathetic, always has been. She was never that bright. Honestly, it's a relief to have her out of our lives. My father added, She thinks she's strong. Let's see how long that lasts. She's not smart, just stubborn. Someone else replied, She'll come back. They always do, especially the stupid ones. I didn't cry, I didn't shake, I didn't break. I just stared at the screen and felt something settle inside me. Something final, something peaceful. That night, I opened every folder tied to them. Bank statements, screenshots, PDFs, voicemails, and I deleted them. Not because I wanted to forget, but because I didn't need evidence anymore. Not for them, not for me, not for anyone. Then I went through my contacts and deleted every name who'd watched them mistreat me and stayed silent. If they couldn't stand beside me in the truth, they didn't deserve access to my life. A few days later, I walked into a small bakery, the kind with real buttercream and handwritten chalkboard menus. "What's the occasion?" the cashier asked as she boxed the cake. "Just me," I said. No one mocked it, no one fed it to a dog. No one told me I was dramatic or stupid. It was just my cake, my table, my life. That night, as I lay in bed staring at the soft glow of my bedside lamp, something clicked into place inside me. I didn't want reconciliation. I didn't want them to change. I didn't want an apology. I only wanted distance, and I finally had it. After years of trying to be what they needed, I finally became what I needed. Free.